Hello, this is an assessment of a Bechstein Model 5 grand piano that's 2 metres long, made in about 1894. The casework's been worked on since then. You see the music stand, that's not what an 1894 Bechstein would have on it. That's more like a Bluthner one. This is a Bluthner that we have in stock, so it's an identical style music desk. And this is the style of music desk that you would expect on a Bechstein of that age. The piano's been restored in, I think, about the 60s, maybe late 50s, and this is maybe repolished at the same time. The polish that's been put on does hide the grain a lot. If we were to repolish a piano, we would try and bring out maximum contrast in the grain rather than leave it where you can't see the grain contrast. But maybe they had a problem with the case and had to make it darker, so that does happen now and again, that you have to make the piano darker if there's some veneer missing, or rather rub right down to the all the veneers rubbed down, and so you just cannot get the kind of contrast, and it would look a bit patchy. So just looking around the whole piano, there's the top lid of the piano. So it was quite common actually to make pianos dark, but you can see the underneath there's a good rosewood veneer, and it does polish out really beautifully. And here's the side of the piano. You can see some of the rosewood there. That does look really good. It looks better on the video actually than live, slightly lighter. And there's the. Now this is interesting. This made an extra fold here, so that's quite. I've seen perhaps, I don't know, 10, 15 pianos done like that. So that's what it looks like with the lid down, and you see these lines across here. So that's not something for us to take it on and sell a Bechstein grand. I don't know if we'd have the confidence that would fetch enough price for the amount of work we'd need to do for the piano. Please do write if you've got an opinion. So this folds back like that and leaves the two side bits. So here we've got a vendor's name. I don't know if that's the original vendor. It could well be. Archibald Ramsden's on a lot of very old pianos. So whether the idea of having this system is so that the candelabras, candlesticks can be put here to shine on the music, because they wouldn't really shine off if they were here, I really don't know. If you're in the trade and know what the answer to that is, I'd love to find out, because there's quite a few pianos like that. And the inside of the piano has been refinished. The frame's been refinished here. The bearing cloth here is the right colour. That's always, for us, as a sign that the person who was doing it was trying to do it with integrity, hopefully, that they choose the right, what's called Bechstein blue. And the tuning pins are extremely large, so they haven't replaced the rest plank, but they are tight. There are some cracks, but they're surface cracks on the rest plank here. If we look at the top here, for instance, you can see surface cracks. What I mean is they're not deep, and the tuning pins are tight. Now these are almost the fattest white pins that you can have, and down the base end they are. That's quite common that you find the bottom base ones. The restorers had to put the largest possible in. If you change the rest plank, obviously you can put small ones in. The string's been done quite well, really. If you listen to the tone of the bass, it's very warm. The break point here is good. Where the tone does often fail on some Bechsteins of this age, it's round here. It's too thin. And when we're choosing a piano to restore, we'll look at that first, really, because you can't do much about that. You can, if you're going to fully restore it, you can make more down bearing by recapping the bridge, raising it slightly, make it slightly higher up. That's the common way of trying to increase down bearing. You can see cracks on the soundboard here, but they don't really affect the tone of the piano. The ribs carry the sound the opposite direction, but it does indicate the piano's perhaps dried out slightly, but not to worry about, contrary to what other people would say. I don't believe that matters that much, but you would, obviously, if you're going to restring the whole piano, normally we would then shim the cracks, and as all restorers do. So the new hammer, you can see that there's new dampers here, and there's some more surface cracks here, but that doesn't worry me in terms of the tuning holding and being very stable, and it was pretty much in tune when we got the piano in. So those are some comments there. Those screws, we'll see where they belong to in a minute. I'm just having it's difficult to really make decisions on this piano, actually. I might be umming and ahhing a bit because it's not an easy one to do. So if we look at keys here, you can see that they're in good condition. There's one or two very slight chips. There's a slight chip there. There's a chip here we can repair that, make it look good. And it's very dirty, so if they're buff, they don't tend to attract the dirt, but they go like that very often if they're not shiny. Something I like to mention when I can is that the pedals are extremely low. They're 4.5 centimetres from the floor, which is excellent. Really pleased that Bechstein do that. This is 61.5 legroom here, and that's pretty normal. But because the pedals are so low, you can put quite tall caster cups under. If you're a tall person, you put 1-inch caster cups under, and the pedals still won't be too high. So for tall people, that's excellent. The screws you saw earlier belong here, and this is the rail that's put on so that when the piano's moved, the keys don't fall out. And it's on practically all grand pianos. Strange enough, the older Blüthners don't have one, which does mean occasionally when they're delivered, the keys are lifted out. I'm going to take it off, and it's important that doesn't get lost, because a lot of people do end up when the piano is restored. Sometimes that gets lost because it doesn't function apart from that. That's the only function it has, and then Blüthners don't have one. So you can see here, the reason I took it off is because I could see some lead oxide on top, and you can see that somebody has restored has filed off the lead because the keys were touching each other. That's so quite common. The lead expands and the keys end up touching each other. Is extremely common on Bechstein grands particularly. So I would like to make that a bit more flush, I think. I'm not going to touch it because lead oxide's poisonous, by the way. If you ever work on it, you have to wear gloves or wash your hands thoroughly if you are going to use it. And there you can see they have done enough work to stop the keys touching each other. Sometimes if you put lacquer on them as well, that helps because it stops them oxidizing. So this is a Bechstein tied action, which is on a huge number of Bechstein grand pianos. I've got another video about the difference between this and the normal action, which has got a capstan. So there's a roller here. To adjust it, you need this kind of screwdriver because you have to go into it from this side here. And we do need to adjust it because as you can see, raised up these two hammers in the centre because they were too low. They were about 51 millimeters, from the strings, and now they're 47, which is what's normally the regulation for them. One reason why they drop down is because the roller gets worn, and as it gets, obviously it gets compacted, and then the hammer ends up being lower down. That's one reason. It may not have been regulated properly in the first place. I'm not mentioning everything about the regulation here to take too long on the video, but we also check these centre pins here, and they mustn't be loose, so they're not loose fortunately, or too tight for that matter. If we replace when we fully restore, we replace hammers, shanks and rollers, as we mentioned before, and then these are all the same tightness if they're perhaps Renner or Albel parts that we normally use. Now these are actually recovered hammers, so I haven't replaced the wood, just replaced the felts here. You can see that from the sort of slightly different look. They don't all look identical, and these are all original wood, so they haven't been taken off at all. So we would prefer not recovering on a Bechstein. Some pianos you can recover, and it tends to be softer sounding, but generally speaking we don't recover Bechstein grand pianos. We put new hammers on. This piano is here for assessment because we sold the client a grand piano, and this was the piano he had, and he asked us to take it away and assess it to decide what to do. Unfortunately, it's not a piano that we could restore and resell for various reasons. The music desk has been changed. It's the tone in the middle. We could obviously replace it with another music desk, but the tone in the middle of the piano is a little bit on the weak side, this middle area here, and it's to do with down bearing. Now, if we fully restored the piano, then we could obviously change, try and get more down bearing by raising the bridge up a bit. Around there particularly, I don't know if you can hear, the sound doesn't carry across the soundboard, and that's the problem. See, so that's much more resonant than that one, and that's more resonant. It's often in the middle here that these pianos do end up with too thin a tone. So raising the bridge up may well improve that. it's a risk to take because we're not certain it will completely eradicate it. So it's quite a hard decision to make. I don't think that's a path we'll go down. We like to, as I say, already have a good tone there if we're going to fully restore. So because of the music stand, because of the side flaps, the hammers, there's another reason. We would like to replace hammer shanks and rollers, and it's a lot of work to do all that. So difficult to decide. That the weighting of the keys is slightly on the heavy side. That's something we could obviously address. That wouldn't be a problem. Hammer blow, that could be easily done, strengthening the repetition spring. So difficult decision to make on this piano. So there's a Bechstein Model 5 made in about 1894. We haven't got the serial number on the top, so I've dated it from the number underneath the piano, which is not quite so accurate. But we have got a list of those numbers and how they correlate. We've got a lot more videos on this model of Bechstein, by the way. If you want to go to our YouTube channel and put in Bechstein 5, you'll find quite a few videos of grand pianos that we've assessed over the years. So they're a very hard one to assess because it will play well. I think once the hammers are lifted up, the hammer blows reduced, and the springs are adjusted too. The hammer blow's the main issue on this. It doesn't quite play as you want it to, but it's a good Bechstein grand piano. We have restored many of this model of piano. If you have a Bechstein of this age and you'd like us to restore it, we'd be delighted to do so. These flaps at the side here, that's one of the reasons we would not want to take it on. The music stand, as I say, Bluton style music stand, and not the original Bechstein style. In other words, a lot of work we can all be done, or we can fully restore the piano, but it's difficult to make enough profit if you do that. It's a long job. So you can hear the tone a bit thin here. Some of the hammers need voicing a bit too. So I hope that's been helpful. If you've got a piano that you wanted to assess, please do write to info@robertspianos.com.